Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving straight into a massive, honestly mind-bending shift happening in the financial world right now. We are totally moving past the era of simple digital banking, where you just open an app to check your balance. And we're stepping into the age of autonomous, invisible financial ecosystems. Today, we're going to break down how advanced AI is fundamentally rewiring the very infrastructure of banking, turning it from a chore you do into something that just seamlessly happens around you.
Seriously, think about this for a second. When was the absolute last time you actually went to the bank? And I don't just mean driving to a physical branch. I mean intentionally blocking out time, opening a specific portal, and logging in just to handle a financial task. The reality is, finance isn't a destination anymore. It's rapidly becoming invisible infrastructure, hidden deep inside our everyday routines.
All right, let's map out our journey for this explainer. First up, we're tackling the invisible banking revolution. Then, we'll look at the shift from automation to autonomy. After that, architecting enterprise AI, followed by the ethical imperative. And we'll wrap up with strategy meets data reality. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The invisible banking revolution. Finance as infrastructure. We are seeing customer relationships completely shift, moving away from traditional banks and straight into digital ecosystems.
Think about the old friction-heavy way of doing things, what we call intentional banking. You need a loan, so you literally stop your day, go to the bank, log in, apply, and wait. It's a whole separate, tedious process. But invisible banking? It's like getting out of your Uber and the payment just happens. Or you're buying something online and you get instant financing right there at checkout. Financial decisions are being baked into everyday user journeys. And here's the kicker. In this new reality, the platform that controls that seamless experience holds all the power, not necessarily the bank providing the money.
Which brings us to a massive core takeaway. In a world completely obsessed with convenience, friction doesn't just slow things down, it absolutely breaks growth. Because of this, literally any company can essentially become a fintech company now just by embedding finance into what they already do. The winners are going to be the ones who can strip away the friction the fastest and make finance feel entirely effortless.
Moving on to Section 2, from automation to autonomy, the engine. Let's peek under the surface and see what's actually powering this massive shift.
Now, you've probably heard a million things about generative AI and standard chatbots by now. But agentic AI, that is a whole different ballgame. We are talking about autonomous systems that don't just sit there waiting for you to type a prompt. They actively reason, plan, act, and continuously learn. It's a huge evolutionary leap from just generating text to actually running complex business operations autonomously. It all runs on this continuous 6-step cycle. First, you give the system a goal. Then, it uses logic to reason about the context. Next, it creates a plan and actually executes those steps, pulling APIs, checking databases, whatever it takes. But the magic is that it doesn't stop there. It observes the outcome and learns from it to get better for next time. It's like having an incredibly smart digital colleague handling loan originations or fraud investigations entirely on its own. It doesn't replace human expertise, it just dramatically supercharges our productivity.
Section 3. Architecting enterprise AI, the blueprint. Because, spoiler alert, you can't just buy this stuff off the shelf and plug it in.
If you want to turn AI from a fun little science experiment into a serious revenue-driving machine, you need a rock-solid structural foundation. Specifically, these 4 critical layers: knowledge, tools, architecture, and observability. Miss even one of these, and your AI transformation is going to stall out. Plain and simple. Let's break that down conversationally. The knowledge layer is essentially the brain. Your enterprise data lakes and vector databases acting like the AI's long-term memory so it understands context. Then you've got the tools layer, which lets these AI agents actually touch your CRMs and APIs to get the real work done. The architecture layer figures out the structure, like do we need one single agent for this or a whole team of them working together in complex patterns? And finally, observability. This is your enterprise-grade safety net, monitoring AI telemetry, catching any hallucinations, and keeping everything strictly compliant. Which brings us to Section 4, the ethical imperative, the guardrails. In highly regulated spaces like banking, ethics isn't just an optional checkbox for the PR department, it's a hard architectural requirement. You need these 5 interconnected pillars tightly surrounding your AI network. First up, trust. Customers absolutely need to feel confident in these AI decisions. Then transparency, meaning we have to be able to explain how the AI got to its answer. Fairness is huge. We have to minimize bias and keep things equitable. Accountability, because at the end of the day, the organization is on the hook, not the algorithm. And lastly, human oversight. AI is an assistant, so keeping a human in the loop for the critical calls is completely non-negotiable.
So it all really boils down to this. Technology creates capability, whereas ethics creates confidence. You could literally have the most advanced AI language models in the entire world, but if you don't have the trust of your customers, your regulators, and your stakeholders, you are not going to win in this invisible banking era.
Section 5. Strategy meets data reality. The reality check. All right, let's get real for a second about the operational hurdles we're facing out there.
Why do so many companies pour millions into AI and get practically zero business value back? It's the classic corporate tug-of-war. On one side, you have a business-driven approach. Lots of hype, lots of demand, but completely weak results because the underlying data is a mess and there's no path to production. On the other side, the data-driven approach gives you these super interesting, nerdy models that offer almost no value because there isn't a clear business owner. It's shiny strategy colliding head-on with operational data reality. So what's the fix? It's enterprise architecture. This is the ultimate translator. It stops executives from throwing money at shiny AI experiments just because they look good on a PowerPoint. It forces every idea to be assessed against actual data readiness, integration complexity, and risk, making sure it can be safely governed and scaled. To make a bold, bank-wide AI vision a reality, you need these 6 things working together perfectly. A smart business-driven strategy, a workforce that's actually equipped to use this stuff, an agile operating model, user-friendly tech, incredibly high-quality data, seriously, the data has to be good, and disciplined adoption. Drop the ball on even one of those and you're putting a ceiling on your entire AI transformation.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with 2 big questions to chew on. First, as this invisible banking trend explodes, what industry do you think is going to be disrupted next by embedded finance? And second, look internally at your own company. Are you just playing around with isolated AI projects, or are you actually doing the hard structural work to build a truly AI-first enterprise? The gap between those 2 paths is exactly where the future of your business is going to be decided. Thanks so much for joining me for this deep dive, and definitely take a hard look at how ready you are for this invisible revolution.